say to America is be true to what you said on paper. If I lived in China or even Russia or any totalitarian country, maybe I could understand some of these illegal injunctions. Maybe I could understand the denial of certain basic First Amendment privileges because they haven't committed themselves to that over there. But somewhere I read of the freedom of assembly. Somewhere I read of the freedom of speech. Somewhere I read of the freedom of press. Somewhere I read that the greatness of America is the right to protest far right. And so just as I say we aren't going to let any dogs or water hoses turn us around, we aren't going to let any injunction turn us around. Well, I don't know what will happen now. We've got some difficult days ahead. But it really doesn't matter with me now because I've been to the mountaintop. I don't mind. Like anybody, I would like to live a long life. Longevity has its place. But I'm not concerned about that now. I just want to do God's will. And He's allowed me to go up to the mountain. And I've looked over and I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land. So I'm happy tonight. I'm not worried about anything. I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord.
You are just listening to the voice of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and you are now listening to the voice of Darrell J. Bennett Jr. Welcome to Come Back Swinging. What you are hearing is the continuation of a legacy that began so long ago. People who fought and bled and died so we can have this moment. As we celebrate the life and the legacy of Dr. King during this weekend, we celebrate what he did, the vision, the fact that we stand on the shoulders of giants. Now, I would say that I am a descendant of Dr. King, but I know carnal people would think I'm talking about blood, but I'm talking spirit. I am the spiritual descendant of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Dr. King, graduate of Morehouse College. Dr. King, who shook the world with his words. Dr. King, who reminded us that there was more in us and more for the country than what was around us. When I walked out of Morehouse College in 2007, I felt the weight of the people that came before me. If I have seen further than others, it's because I stand on the shoulders of giants. The spiritual legacy of men who shook the world. I think of Dr. Benny Mays, the mentor of Dr. King, president of Morehouse College, who taught that Morehouse holds a crown above her students' head that one day will stand tall enough to grow into. But he wasn't just talking about the school Morehouse. He was talking about the spirit that produced Dr. King, that spirit that produced great men who shook this world, that spirit that made the civil rights movement possible. I am a descendant of that spiritual legacy of people like Harriet Tubman, who said, I will free my people, even if it's at the point of a gun. Dr. Benny Mays, people like Malcolm X, who saw that we could be empowered and we could own in our own communities. Du Bois, who reimagined our place in the world. Fannie Lou Hamer, and Ella Baker. But that spiritual legacy extends further than the United States of America. It's the spiritual legacy that produced Moses, who, even though he was in fear of his own life, returned back to the place from which he ran to free his people. The spiritual legacy of people like Amos, who said, let justice roll down like a mighty stream, righteousness like a river. People like Joseph, who, though he was in prison and though he was wronged, God used him to sit amongst kings and deliver his people. And so that's what Comeback Swinging is about. Before I bring on my first guest, I want to tell you what Comeback Swinging is about. It started as my personal story. I'm Darrell Bennett. I grew up in Baltimore, graduated from Morehouse, graduated from Harvard, wrote books, all of that stuff. But I also had life happen to me. And even in the dark periods, even in prison, even in sadness, even in confinement, I understood that there was purpose. And so the book that I wrote, Comeback Swinging, that was released in 2018, was really the story of a man. But truly, it became a movement. And so what Comeback Swinging now is about the stories of people who got back up. That's the story of our people who refuse to be defined by their circumstances and their situation. Our people who though they were afflicted, they multiplied, who built nations, created empires. And so I want to set the intention. Every third Saturday at 10 a.m. when you see me here at WFBR 1590 AM, I'm going to be bringing stories of people and bringing people on. I have a special guest that's going to come on in a couple minutes to begin to talk about how we change the narrative. I believed that when we created this, we would begin to change the narrative. How are we going to do it? By changing stories. The stories of people. I shared my story. I shared how it's connected with the stories of people like Dr. King and people like Dr. Benny Mays, people like Moses. But you have a story too. And this platform, this is bigger than a show. This platform is about sharing the stories of overcoming in the criminal justice system, through societal influences that have sought to hold us back, because we're not just fighting personal adversity. It's cultural, it's societal, it's institutional. Now I want to tell you how you can join us before I bring on our guests. You have a part to play. If you want to sit back, eat popcorn and watch this, I'm the wrong person for you to be listening to. The moment has come for action. If you have to ask yourself why you should be involved in the work of justice now, we probably need to have a much larger conversation. The blood of our people cries out from the ground. The moment has now come that silence is deafening. 3 things you can do. 1, you can share this. Just by sharing the word of what we're doing, by telling people stories, just by sharing the word that we're beginning to break the societal chains, you're doing something. The reason why we had 4 years of mess was not just because fake news appeared, but because it circulated. People shared it, they perpetuated, they liked it. Now think about it. If a lie could shake a nation, imagine the truth could transform the world. Every share, every like, every time you get on Facebook, every time you get on Instagram and you like and share somebody's story. How you doing, Aunt Desi? Give me a second. When you share somebody's story, That's my guess. Give me a sec. When you share someone's story, you are changing the narrative. I want you to understand that. It's not just that you're clicking the like button, because we're going to make sure that this is up on comebackswinging.com so you can share this. Our guest that's on that just appeared a little bit, she's going to talk about her son, and she's going to talk about what mothers need to hear. And I need you to share this. Secondly, how can you get involved? Go to comebackswinging.com. If you know somebody that's dealing in the criminal justice system and they've been wrongfully convicted, or they've been given a sentence they shouldn't have, or they're dealing with some issue, you need to reach out to us. We have a team. I don't just want to tell you you can be great and, inspire you and clap my hands and get off here. I want to tell you we've got people in positions of power, insiders, who can make a difference. You need to reach out. If you know someone who is dealing in that type of world, maybe they can't speak up for themselves, go to comebackswinging.com. Let us know. Share the story. And third and lastly, how can you get involved? Speak up. This is not the time for silence. It was said at the end of World War II that it was not the words of my enemies that shook me, it was the silence of my friends. As we begin to turn the narrative, I want to bring our first guest. A guest to you, she is part of my heart, from Baltimore, Baltimore's very own. I wanted to make sure our very first show, we had someone from Baltimore. Aunt Desi is going to share a bit of her story. I know we don't have much time. She has been connected with my family for decades before I even came on the scene. So even though she's not my aunt in blood, we're connected. And I wanted to have this platform for her to share this story because her son, my mother's godson, who I called my cousin, died in police custody. And I'm gonna let her tell the story, and I wanna be very cognizant of the words we're using because there's obviously some things actively happening. The Baltimore police, investigations and some things that are happening. So what we'll say is, he died in custody. You can read in between the lines here, and they are saying that he killed himself, that he shot himself. You can read in between the lines. Aunt Desi, I want you to come on.
Yes.
Thank you for being here.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you clearly. Talk to us a little bit, Auntie.
What I need you people to understand and to know that the justice system is not all wrong, but the justice system is not all right. When you get a person, take them in to question them, they're supposed to return back home. But that's not what happened with my son. They're trying to say that he committed suicide in the police department. I know without a shadow of a doubt that my child did not commit suicide. My child loved his family. He loved himself. And it's important that we speak out about these matters because there's times when they're talking about Freddie Gray, they're talking about George Floyd, they're talking about this one, and they're talking about that one. But they need to speak these other people's names who people are not bringing up. So what I am doing is seeking justice for my son. I know that the police will probably never come back and say, yes, they killed my son, but I want my son's name cleared because my son did not kill himself. I'm not saying my son was an angel. My son had some run-ins with the law. My son had been incarcerated a lot of his life. But my son had came home, was working, was going to school, trying to better himself. And the threat that was made to my son by some police was fulfilled when they took him into a station to question him and then say that they allowed him to go to the police bathroom.
And you never saw him again.
First and foremost, how can you go to the police bathroom? But they say while he was in the police bathroom, he shot himself in the mouth, blew his brains out. But then he got up, according to the documentations that I've seen and flash drive and stuff that I have and seen, he got up off the toilet.
After he shot himself?
Down the trash can,
Auntie.
and laid himself on the bathroom floor.
Wow.
And also, they said he went to the bathroom to urinate and his bladder was full. The autopsy report shows that his bladder was full. So I need justice for my child, because I don't need this just to be swept up under the rug like it means nothing. It may not mean anything to them, but it means a lot to me.
Yeah.
Especially when you picked a time when this child was trying to better himself to do something to him. You threatened him 2 years prior, so why couldn't you do something to him when he was still out there doing stuff?
Auntie, can I jump in here and say this? First of all, thank you for sharing this. And I want the listeners to hear, and I appreciated you saying that your son was not an angel. We're not trying to, there are some people who are wrongfully convicted. This is not the conversation here. But there's many people like myself who made poor choices, but then there's the over-sentencing. There's the brutality. In your case, it's a death. And so I want people to hear this, that this is not victimology here. This is not just looking to point a finger. This is holding people accountable. This is holding people accountable. There's two narratives that are here. Yes, we are helping people to make better choices. And I appreciate you, Auntie, for saying that that is part of the story. But also part of the story is the Baltimore Police Department, and I'm going to call it out, has some answering to do. So let me ask you this, Auntie. What do you want other mothers to know, whether they're in Baltimore or not? People all over the world are listening right now. What do you want mothers to know?
I need mothers to know that you, first and foremost, you raise your children with manners, morals, and principles and values. They may go out and do little things, and then they'll come back and get themselves together. But it's nobody that should be able to threaten their life, and then later years, somebody from that same force takes that child's life. God is the only person who should be able to take lives. And when you just running around all willy-nilly and just taking lives, and not being held accountable, you think that you're Superman and Batman or whatever, your brain blows up. And you get the wrong concept of things. But what I need people to know is you can never look at the book by its cover and say, well, this is not going to be that way and this is not going to be that way. You trust and you believe in God, and you can get some answers, and God will work some things out. Like I believe that God is going to work out the situation with my son.
That's right. And that's right, Auntie. And if I can say, God is going to use us to do it. And I want people to hear this. We're going to help you. We're going to help you. So let me ask this, two things, Auntie. First, tell us really quickly when this happened, because I don't want people to think this is something that happened last week and now you're trying to figure out why there hasn't been a settlement.
August the 5th, 2014.
Okay. So we're talking almost 7 years, still not received answers.
And if you want to read about it, it was in, I got the news article address that you can read about it.
Okay, she's pulling this up. Listeners, go to comebackswinging.com. You can also go to darrellbennett.com. And I need you to go to comebackswinging.com. If you have a story like this, we need to hear it. We need to hear it. We've got to change the narrative. Auntie, as you're pulling this up, because there are going to be people listening, there are good people that are in law enforcement and that are in positions of power in Baltimore. If they are listening, and when they are listening, I want to ask you, Auntie, what tangibly, I know you say you want justice, but what is it that you are asking for law enforcement or someone in power in the Justice Department to do concerning your son?
I need someone in the Justice Department to... Well, I have someone in the Justice Department working on the case with me pertaining to my son. So...
if someone is listening and they want to help and they want to get on board, you know, people that are listening, I want everybody here. As I'm talking to Aunt Desi, I'm talking to everybody. Netflix changed the whole game. I mean, you know, people are putting out documentaries and it's turning cases over from 10, 20 years ago. So this is powerful. So I know you have people working on it, but I know that and I don't want you to say anything that's going to jeopardize anything. But what if people want to help you, Aunt Desi? How can they help you what does justice look like for your son?
Well, justice for me would be for them to clear my son's name. I know that the police will never never come out and say that they shot my son or they killed my son, but they went on the news and they made my son sound like Charles Bronson doing Death Wish 10. As far as I know, Death Wish only did 6. I want my son's name to be cleared. I want my son's name to be on them banners where they have George Floyd's name, where they have Freddie Gray's name. I needed to say Tyree Woodson. Because my son did not kill himself, and he was also killed in the custody of police.
Could I just say this?
That's what I need. I reached out to Al Sharpton. I'm trying to reach out to him again. And if he is listening, I need him to reach out to me. And I need him to check his messages. I'm going to reach out to you, Al Sharpton, on Messenger, because I need you to read my son's story. Yes. Reach out to me, and I need you to help me clear. Yes. To come back when it's all done and say that my son did not commit suicide.
Okay, and we want to help with that.
The article was in the city paper. I can't find the...
Let me jump in here, Auntie, because we're running to the end, and I want to make sure that people are getting what's happening here. If you are listening right now, I need you to go to comebackswinging.com. If you have a story like this, we need to hear it. If you can help Aunt Desi, we need to hear it. If you can help someone that's like in Aunt Desi's shoes, we need to hear it. If you are an attorney or a power broker or someone in the city of Baltimore who is interested in the cause of justice and you've heard Aunt Desi's story and you want to get involved, go to comebackswinging.com. Let's move the needle on this. Secondly, I want to say about Reverend Sharpton, yes, if he's listening, certainly, Reverend, Auntie's asking you to check your messages, but I want people to hear this. We are grateful for what Reverend Sharpton has done, and he's in that spiritual lineage that we stand on the shoulders of. But I want people to know there's a lot of us, and we're coming out of schools, we're coming out of prisons, we're coming out of the streets, and we are empowered with leadership to change what's going on. So I want you to know that, Auntie, we're grateful for Al Sharpton, but Al Sharpton's got a lot of things happening, and we're going to do what we can on our end. We've got about 2 minutes. What do you want to say for anybody that's listening, Auntie?
The article is on http:// all small letters, BEAT.com.
Okay.
/20/0805. What happened to Tyree Woodson? .info.
Okay. So say his name. Tyree Woodson. I wasn't going to say it. I wanted, I wanted to be respectful. Tyree Woodson. This isn't just a statistic. This isn't just another, this is my heart hurt when you said pretty much you wish he was on the banner with George Floyd. Isn't it sad that we're at the place where we have mothers that's the aspiration, that my son, yes, he's dead, but at least let it be vindicated. We want it so we don't have mothers mourning their sons' deaths. That's why we're doing Comeback Swinging. We want it so we bring down and begin to change the narrative on an unfair, unjust, and unethical system that refuses to see everybody as equal. This has got to change. Thank you, Auntie, for being on. I want you, if you're listening, go to comebackswinging.com. Our office is releasing next week, January 23rd, 2021, a huge press release. You're going to see this everywhere. And it's going to outline a number of steps that we're taking. We want it to be smart and wise. This is happening after the transition of Mr. Trump, because there's some things that we're working with the new Justice Department. And I don't want to get into too much of that. Stay tuned. I want to thank you for being a part of this. If you are interested in the cause of justice, that's what this is about. If you are interested, I need you to get involved. How do you get involved? Go to comebackswinging.com. Let us know the story. Let us know how you can help. We're putting people down on our network so we know when people have questions, we can refer them to lawyers. If people have issues, we can refer them to counselors and things like that. So even if you just want to be in our network, we need you to reach out. At this moment, I'm going to share a story, and then I'm going to sign off. When I remember the first time I lost my voice. And I was actually sitting in federal prison, and I was listening on the phone to a speech. And I did not realize that that speech was me. Somebody was playing something on the phone. I knew it was a speech, I just didn't know it was my voice. And I recognized that I lost my voice, but I could get it back. And if I got it back, I'd help other people get their voice back. That's what Comeback Swinging is about. I've got my voice back, and now I've come to bring my people. I've seen the mountain. We're going together. Thank you. Comeback Swinging.